Daddy is currently out because we went shopping in London today for bits and bobs, and he left it in a restaurant that we went for a drink in, so he is now gone to retrieve it. Fingers crossed. Anyway, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to film my side of the story in terms of building a relationship and building trust in a dynamic, and I'll get him to sit down and do his version, so you've got kind of like both sides of the story, if you see what I mean. So when we started seeing each other, I had a lot of lack of trust in pretty much everything. Dynamic wise, relationship wise, seeing each other wise, everything I had a lack of trust in. So it started with lots of baby steps, lots of tiny steps to get to where we are now. So I already, for example, I already had my cage because I know I liked it, but it's little things like setting it up. I used to be really uncomfortable with getting in it around him. I used to be really uncomfortable with using a dummy around him or saying the words. Over time, we built up trust, and I kind of said, hey, the ABDL thing is something that I'm interested in. I've done it by myself for an amount of time, but I've never kind of introduced it to someone before. The same with like a DDLG dynamic. I've never had that with someone before, so this is the first for me. So I'm by no means the expert in how to do anything. I just speak from my experience with him, obviously. Yeah, I would say starting with the really small things, we're quite good at communicating in the way that I am awful at speaking about things. I find it really uncomfortable. I don't like it. So we communicate by texting, by writing to the messages, sending letters. One time I wrote on his back in pen, then sent a picture to him so he could read it. Like things like that is how we tend to communicate more. Like if we're planning a scene, or if we've said, do you want to do this? We usually text it. He'll usually text me sort of instructions, and then I reply, yes daddy, no daddy, do I have any questions about it before we do it? So things like that are quite good. I would say building trust is so fundamental to any dynamic or relationship or friendship, for example, of any type. So start with the small things, start with the really manageable things, like he brushes my teeth in the evening. That's one thing we've done for a very long time, but that starts the little process of, oh, now you brush my teeth in the evening, maybe you can make meals, maybe you can do this, maybe you can do that, if that's what we both want to do. Then you start adding in your rules, what you agree and disagree on, maybe reward charts. I still struggle quite a lot with actually just calling him daddy. I don't do it a lot during the day because to me that's quite a sensitive thing, especially as I know he's had past dynamics, so that hits home with me a little bit more. So that took quite a long time to build on. Doing things like going to events, as I said, we've not been to any little specific events together, but we've been to Lamb, which is basically just a fetish market with an after party, and doing things like calling him daddy in public. That was a massive thing for me. I've never done that before, and I felt comfortable enough to do so. I felt comfortable enough to be silly, to be kind of more of my little self around people, which was a first for me. I've never experienced that before. Other things I would say are things like, if you don't find it comfortable talking about maybe kinks, maybe things you're into, things you're curious about, things you want to try, writing it down might be a good idea. Or like, we did lots of quizzes, did lots of BuzzFeed quizzes before we'd even met. We did lots of like, haha, what about this? You know what I mean? So we did that kind of thing quite a lot, and now we have, so what we do is we say sexy fun times, which doesn't actually always mean sex. That just means I'm up for doing things, whether that be maybe things, impact play, sharp things. We have our own kind of way of communicating, and you'll have that in your own dynamics, or you should build on that if you haven't already. So for example, I feel really uncomfortable with using certain words, but I'm okay with saying sexy fun times, because it makes it funny. If you can make it funny, something that you do want but you find it uncomfortable to say, it makes life so much easier, and you gain the ability to be able to say things, you gain the ability to speak about it to your partner properly, rather than being kind of scared and embarrassed about having those conversations. Like, for example, today we went in some sex shops because we wanted to buy a couple of bits and pieces. Now, before us, I would have never have done that. Never. Because I find that scary, I find it embarrassing, I find it just doesn't, like, you know what I mean? It doesn't sit well. But after building a space with him reassuring me that it's okay to do these things, it's okay to wear, it's okay to wear teddy bears and flowers and do your eyes and wear your collar in public and wear baby bottle earrings, you know? It's okay. And that has made me come out of my shell a whole lot more than I ever have done. So yeah, I'm gonna stop rambling, and hopefully next thing you see is Daddy giving his opinion on how to build trust in relationships / dynamics. So yeah.
So we're making a video on how to build trust in a relationship and dynamic, I think. Do you mind? First of all, my point is patience, a lot of patience. Pineapple came into this relationship and dynamic with broken trust and issues that stem from her past relationship / dynamic, and it takes a lot of patience, because when you step into a dynamic that you know is going to work because this person works for you, you shouldn't expect things to work out straight away. You shouldn't expect them to be able to call you daddy, sir, whatever you've come up with straight away. You shouldn't expect them to understand what you want or what you need straight away. Sun's bright. You shouldn't expect things to click as a perfect dynamic straight away. It takes building, it takes time, it takes trust, it takes a lot of talking. Pineapple's not very good with words, so we do a lot of writing things down or texting, or I've got really good at understanding what she wants just by little noises she makes or body language. It just takes a lot of getting to know your person. But patience is massive. We've been together now 9 months. 9 months today, actually. 9 months today. Dynamic wise, we've been practicing that for 8. And still, it's not so easy for her to call me by my name around the house like second nature. It's not easy for her to feel comfortable in all activities we do. It's not easy for her to fall into her little space at the click of the finger. It's still a work in progress, but I'm patient with it. And I think the end goal of our second nature being Daddy and Pineapple 24/7 will be worth it. You know, this whole progress of waiting and being patient and helping her trust me in any way I can will be worth it. And you've also got to take the lead, which is my second point. As a dominant, whether you're mummy, daddy, or whatever you call yourself, you've got to take the lead. And by that I mean you've got to be the one to push. If you're trying to get them to call you mummy or daddy, when you kiss them goodnight and they say goodnight, before you leave, ask them to say goodnight, daddy. not just good night. Be the one to instigate any little activities you do. Be the one to instigate plans to go out, plans to what we do. A lot of arts and crafts things, a lot of quizzes, a lot of days out wherever he's going. Pineapple loves animal farms. You know, be the one. I'm only speaking from a dominant point of view, of course, because this is where I come from. But for us dominants, we need to be the one, especially for a vulnerable little like Pineapple is. You need to be the one who instigates things. You need to be the one that pushes them. You know, they need to believe, second nature again, that you're their authoritative figure. You're in charge, and you're patient enough to understand that it takes time, and that it's not as easy for them to just fall into their little space as it is for us to fall in our dom space. You know, another big one is to get to know your person and get to know their boundaries. Boundaries is a massive thing. You know, if their boundaries comes from trauma or uncomfortability, or wherever their boundaries have stemmed from, you need to get to know them, because then you can focus on coming up with plans, sessions, conversations where you find a comfortable spot to be able to push their boundaries, push it to the limit, never overstep them, but push it to the limit, to where their head usually goes, no, I can't do that, or no, I'm not comfortable doing that. If you push their boundaries to that limit in a nice, safe environment, a nice, safe way together, that is so important to building trust. I won't go into mine and Pineapple's boundaries and what we've done to push them, but we've practiced a lot with her boundaries especially, and I think if we didn't work on pushing them boundaries, there's no way we'd be where we are today. But yeah, I think the three main ones for me is to have a lot of patience, is to be patient, being patient. I can't stress that enough. To take the lead in anything that you do together, and to get to know their boundaries. You must get to know their boundaries and work out a way together on how you can push them. Never overstep them, but how you can push their boundaries. Because it's not only exciting from my point of view, but it's exciting for them. It's exciting for her, and it does absolute miracles in the dynamic.